But there was something very interesting that came out of WWE's earnings this week, and they noted the following in their legal documents in their earnings report. As previously disclosed on June 17, 2022, a special committee of the board of directors was formed on June 15th to investigate allegations of misconduct by Vince McMahon. As previously disclosed, the special committee investigation was completed during the fourth quarter of last year. However, related government investigations remain ongoing. On July 17, 2023, federal law enforcement agents executed a search warrant and served a federal grand jury subpoena on Mr. McMahon. No charges have been brought in these investigations. The company has received voluntary and compulsory legal demands for documents, including from federal law enforcement and regulatory agencies concerning the investigation and related subject matters. So, that escalated quickly. Vince was also announced this week as being on a medical leave of absence after the spinal surgery that he had 2 weeks ago, which almost to the week matches up with when he got served with that subpoena and they executed that search warrant. So, nice to see him trading in his neck brace from the steroid trial in '94 for a back brace here for this. I'm sure the timing is just a coincidence. Reach for comment, the company said it believes the subpoena and the search warrant are a continuation of the investigation that commenced last summer. WWE has cooperated throughout and fully understands and respects the government's need for a complete process. Vince McMahon himself had the following to say in an internal memo to company employees. Said, in 2022, WWE formed a special committee to review allegations of misconduct against me. That review was concluded in November of 2022, following an extensive investigation. Throughout the experience, I have always denied any intentional wrongdoing and continue to do so. I am confident that the government's investigation will be resolved without any findings of wrongdoing. I am focused on completing the recovery process from my recent spinal surgery and on closing our transaction with Endeavor, which will create one of the preeminent global sports and entertainment brands. He did not commit any intentional wrongdoing. He only accidentally may have broken the law. I'm sure his lawyers insisted on that language. If I recall, I believe Vince McMahon replaced the two board members who led that investigation. He replaced them with George Barrios and Michelle Wilson, who he had previously fired from the company. And we never did find out what they may have uncovered in that investigation. All we were told is that management was working with the board to implement the recommendations of the special committee. But we were never told what those recommendations were. We were never told what those findings were. We weren't told anything. So just because no charges have been filed does not mean that they won't be. If they really are building a case against him, it could be months, if ever, right, before they charge him with anything. He better hope they don't find any evidence of wrongdoing. He may have beaten the federal government once before. But I looked it up. Last year, out of 72,000 defendants in criminal cases, you know how many of them actually went to trial and were acquitted of the charges against them? Less than 300 out of 72,000. That's how many people went to trial and got off. So that works out to be less than 1%. That's a pretty good conviction rate. Most of them don't even go to trial. Most defendants, they end up pleading guilty. What the charges would even be in this case, we don't know. But if it's an extension of the investigation from last year, then it's related in some way to these hush money payments that he made to all those women. He's already paid back over $17 million to the company for its investigation. The company itself paid out an additional $7 million in expenses, which he should also have to pay back. If they find that he broke any laws, I hope they make him pay for it. Plain and simple. If they investigate and they find no evidence of wrongdoing or nothing they could convict him on, then he gets off with it. But if they find that he broke any laws, he should be locked up. If that means prison time, so be it. Don't treat him any differently than you would anybody else. The thing is, though, he's got money. And people with money often get away with a lot of things. But if he did something wrong, then he deserves whatever punishment he's got coming to him. He should not be allowed to get away with that. My gut tells me whatever they find, he'll just worm his way out of it like he does everything else. He'll plead his way out of it or he'll pay a fine or something. I'm not going to hold my breath on seeing this guy in an orange jumpsuit. But he continues to be a distraction for this company at a time when they are waiting to close on the Endeavor deal. And with business booming, they just announced their largest quarter in company history, $410 million in revenue. The last thing they need are more stories like this and more questions about this stuff. And as long as his name is still attached to this company, when stories like this come up, the company gets dragged right back into the mud. And that's exactly the kind of press that they don't want.